So, introducing Jax, I've got him on today. I won't say too much. I'll let him explain his own story, and your own story. But for me, it's been really empowering watching him from afar. We've known each other for sort of a long
10
time.
years now, isn't it?
Yeah, probably even longer, even maybe. Well, something like that. And friendly then, haven't sort of spoken or been in touch over that sort of 10-year period. And then again, watching from afar, just felt really inspired, and I just wanted to find out a little bit more information about his journey, what you've gone through around mental health, around other things as well, which I'm passionate about, and just see where the conversation goes.
Yeah.
So, what, in your own words, what would you say that, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, now I suppose my name's Jaxon now. I was assigned female at birth, named Jessica, and was Jess up until about 18 months ago. And I made the decision when I was 27 to transition from female to male, and that was because I'd got to a point where it was either I do this or I die. And it took me 27 years to accept it. It took me 27 years to even realise what the problem was, and spent 27 years trying to fill a void. But when I figured it out, I was so unhappy that I was ready to die. So, and as brutal as that sounds, like very to the point, that's how it was. Like, I either do this, and if it works, then I'll be happier than I've ever been, and if it doesn't, I'm ready anyway.
So did you find that, first of all, it's incredible, because I think we were talking off camera before about bravery and about strength, and I've been in environments my whole life where people have pretended to be tough or done things that would be considered tough, going on a rugby pitch, getting into a cage, having a fight, all these things, when in reality, as we probably both agreed, being vulnerable and being true to yourself is the hardest and toughest thing you can do. So it's incredible that you've done that. When would you say that you started to realise that you weren't that you wanted to transition, or you had? How did that journey go in your mind?
It's a weird one to like try and put into words, and I think obviously I can only speak from my experience. I can't, every person's experience is totally different, so I can only speak off mine. But when I look back now, I've known since being about 5 years old.
Right.
When you go through, the point that I'm at now, and I look back and I think, oh my God, it's so obvious since I was a baby. But leading up to, the first 26, 27 years of my life, it was always about filling a void or wanting to start again, and not really know why. So I was always like a tomboy growing up and stuff when I was young, but I'd always have like little, obviously we all have our little own like OCD little bits and things that we do and whatever else, but there was always an element of me being really uncomfortable in something, and I couldn't work out what that was. And obviously at the time, 20 years ago, there definitely wasn't language, up until about 5 years ago, there wasn't, that language where you can express what that feels like. Gender dysphoria was not something that people understood, and people think, you say the word transgender and people automatically think, oh, a man in a dress.
I would say that
is
for me is still a ideology, and is what people do think.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
Yeah. It's the first image that comes into your head, and it's because of, I think a lot of it is because of media representation, and there only really is, and it's sort of coming up now over the last few years, there's so much more, but in the past, the transgender representation in the media has just been so clumsy And you know, if there was real, genuine representation and visibility, then those clumsy representations wouldn't matter as much. But
so what do you mean by clumsy? Because I'd love in like our conversation today, because first of all I'm really ignorant, right? And I would love to, I'm here to learn as much as possible.
Yeah.
For me personally, but also for people that I would say resonate with my being in the environments that I've been in.
Yeah.
Rugby environments, sort of masculine environments
Yeah.
that you'd see that would have a lot of what I don't like the phrase toxic masculinity, but that's those sorts of cultures.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to watch this and go, that's what
Yeah,
transgender is. That's what gender is. That's what sex is. What is it?
Right.
So when you say like a clumsy representation in the media, what does that like? What's an example of clumsy representation?
So in the past, you would always, and I'm talking years ago in the media, you would have, and what people, that's what sticks in people's mind because that's all they've ever seen. If they watch a film with a trans woman in, that trans woman would always be a prostitute, or that trans woman would always be not played by a trans woman, but played by a male actor, obviously, you know, male, playing that trans woman so that it is obviously.
Yeah.
You know, little things like that. So
the viewer can actually see that, right, sticking like a sore thumb, right, that is a trans person.
Yeah, like it's a, and that's what I mean by clumsy, because you don't represent, you know, and it's, I don't think it was ever done on purpose or anyone's fault. It's just lack of education and lack of knowledge, because trans people haven't just appeared. They've been there forever, just like gay people, just like whoever else, but the lack of understanding, the lack of education of all these things, you know, so that's why it's difficult, I say, probably for someone, you know, a trans actor to say, well, allow a trans woman to play a trans woman, to give that true representation instead of, and that's not against the male actor or whatever, it's to give a true representation of that person, that individual, you know, instead of just keeping this image in people's mind of, you know, you say the word transgender and people just think drag queen, and drag queen is a completely separate thing. So like, I mean, I can go through it if you want to like learn.
I do want to learn. Exactly.
Okay,
because my understanding as it's as at the moment, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm
no, it's okay though. We've got like, it's okay to make mistakes.
I hope
that is the biggest thing since I've done this and decided to do this. That's been my biggest thing to anyone, you know, at work or with my family or whatever. It's okay to make mistakes. Like you're gonna make mistakes. Like for example, you've known someone called, you know, when I you know knew you and saw you more 10 years ago, you knew Jess.
Yeah.
You've known, technically, although I've not seen you, you've known Jess for 10 years. So you're going to look at me and think, Jess, like it's probably easier because I've not seen you for a long time, but you know, if you meet someone and you mates with them for 2 weeks and they say their name's Chris and then suddenly they go, oh no, my name's Dave. Well no, your name's Chris because I've just been talking to you.
Because I think as humans we like to put people in boxes.
Yeah.
In a lot of aspects, don't we? We like to go, they're like that. We do it with political standpoints, we do it with sports, with who they are.
And I hate it, I just think, get out of that box and go live your life.
Well, I think that's really important, because I agree with you. I think the more we can try and remove ourselves from putting people in boxes, the better. I hate it I don't even like, you know, the idea of being part of England and being, I hate how we, you know, I am Labour, I'm Conservative. I don't like identity politics in any regard, to be honest with you. So I hate all of it. Where I struggle with, because going back to our first point, I said how I understand it. So my understanding, as I might be wrong, as I said, is you've got sex as in what you'd say you're biologically born with. You've got your representation of how you want to represent yourself. So irrelevant of what your biological standpoint is. You've then got your sexual preference in regards to who you find attractive, who you fancy and stuff like that. And then you've got how you want to actually, how you feel that you are, what sort of you feel you are.
Yeah.
So you've got how you represent yourself, how you feel, what you're born as, and then who you fancy. So those,
Yeah.
those would that be right?
Yeah. So in a roundabout way, you're right in what you're saying. So I try and explain it as like simply as I can. I've done it. Tried to do it with the prisoners at work to try and help them understand as well, because people think that sex, gender, your sexuality, whatever, it's all the same. Boom, put you in a box.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's or if you're trans, you must be gay, and what does this mean, and what does that mean, and so the easiest way I can explain it is like a spectrum. So you've got your biological sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you were assigned at birth. So for me, I was assigned female at birth. My biology is female. My biology will always, forever and a day, be female.
So you believe, as a flag in the sand, we are born either male or female.
Biologically, in a scientific sense.
But apart from a few biological genetic variations,
Yeah.
where I know that some women have XX chromosome, men have XY, and then there's a few genetic variations where some women can have a mutation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you know, I don't have that intellect, but basically,
you're either born with XX or XY.
In a scientific biological way, you are assigned a gender at birth. That doesn't mean you identify as that gender. That doesn't mean you feel like that gender. That doesn't mean anything. That just means biologically, I have female biological, reproductive organs and whatever else, and you were assigned male at birth. So that's that as a biology, scientific, whatever you want to call it. That's what you were born. So that's your sex. You then have gender, which you can split into two for me in my mind. So you've got your gender expression and your gender identity.
Mm-hmm. So
your gender identity is the gender that you identify with, that you feel that's who you are. That's So for me, I identify as male.
Yes.
Because I believe and feel within myself that whether that's a presence, whether that's my mannerisms, whether that's how I act, whether that's whatever it is, I identify as male.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that that's who I am. And then your gender expression is a spectrum that can just go back and forth your whole life. So your gender expression doesn't have anything to do with me identifying as male or you identifying as male. It's your expression of how you look, how you act.
So almost like a fashion.
Yeah.
Like you can almost change.
Yeah. So for example, you might be, so say you liked dressing in a feminine way or acting in a feminine way or doing things that are stereotypically feminine or whatever. Your gender expression may be more towards the feminine side, or a lot of non-binary people, or gender fluid people or whatever, they sort of go back and forth on that spectrum, because one day they might wake up and think, oh, I want to feel or dress or act really masculine today, or I want to dress or feel and act really feminine, and
I think that's
and that's your expression. That's
yeah, and I would say even talk about myself, like I can have days where I feel overt, moments, not even days, seconds, where I feel overtly what you deem as traditionally masculine, but I also love dancing in my bedroom, doing ballet with my little Don Rainey and Darcy. So I think, would you argue then that what you'd class as more male or female expressions of yourself can vary consistently?
Yeah, 100%.
All the time. There's 100%. No set.
No, your expression is, so for example, when I was younger, I was when I was a little girl, I was a massive tomboy. Mm-hmm. So even though I identified as female, I believed that that's who I was and that's who I was going to be forever and whatever else. My expression was very masculine.
Yes, even without realising it.
Yeah, because that's just how I express myself. That might be how I dress or how I act, or
of course.
Stereotypically a tomboy, it's a little girl and their expression is very masculine, if that makes sense.
Totally agree.
Same with a lot of gay men when they're young lads, they and that's when people go, oh, you always knew he was going to be gay because he was so feminine or whatever, stereotypically, because his expression was very feminine.
So when we're both talking here about like masculine and feminine on a spectrum, what quantifies masculine? So what quantifies those end ranges of the spectrum? How do we deem which one's which? So, when we say when you act camp it's feminine, or when you act, let's say, aggressive, it's masculine.
Yeah.
What are we? Who says that that's masculine or feminine?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't agree. I don't think that it should be anymore. But stereotypically, when you speak about the extremity of being masculine man and the extremity of being the most feminine woman, that spectrum there, that is your gender expression. So you might be, a lot of people are like, you know, in the middle. They're not.
Because I think what I'm struggling with, what I just thinking about it as we're talking now, like, should there we talk about it as almost like a spectrum, as like an analogy of like a rainbow or whatever, but who is it potentially wrong that we've even thinking of it as a spectrum rather than like some cloud of like there's no end to each spectrum. It just is like you are something. So maybe in the media, because I always look at it as, oh, you're more tomboy. So well, what do you mean tomboy? Why have you already put that element in the box?
Why are you not just a human?
Why are you not just human? Like we all have tendencies to be, you know, constructed and everything. So even labelling it as in I'm here on the spectrum, automatically to me it makes me think, well, like, where am I on it? And it's like, actually, if you change the construct of how you think about it, and you think about it as, well, no, there's no tomboy, there's no really female.
It's just a human.
You just are. You just are.
Just a child, and
the more we can try and break away those, these are the spectrums, the more we can actually start to go, that's because that sits better with me. That people are born with just a potential cloud of, you know, things going on.
And that's how it should be. And like, you know, it comes down to separating boys and girls toys in shops or clothes. And you know, I remember when I was young, and I shopping was like the worst thing in the world. The amount of breakdowns I used to have or walk out of shops with my mum because I didn't feel comfortable or want to go in the girls section. But I couldn't go in the boys section because I was a girl. And I just felt so uncomfortable in either. And I couldn't stand it. And then the moment I'd try something on or something, and it was just the biggest trigger, whether I'd try, I don't know, I'd try like a piece of girls' clothing on, and I've always been quite like athletic or whatever, so I always thought, I look like a man, you know.
Really?
And that was a massive, although now I'm happier than I ever was, than I have ever been now as male. I've spent, you know, the last 10 years being called a man, and it devastated me.
Wow.
I used to go out in 6-inch heels and hair down my back, and people in a dress on, and people come up to me and go, "You're a bloke."
Wow.
And I would be like, it would just.
How fascinating!
Oh my god! It was like a knife to the stomach, and then
as
soon as I come out, mate, and go out for my tea, and they're like, "All right, ladies." I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I shaved my head and I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's fascinating,
but,
isn't it?
There's so many times that I've just been so devastated and so hurt because I just used to get called a man so much, and that sounds so daft because I'm a man now, and that's who I am. But I never wanted to be a female who looked like a man. I was just so conflicted, and obviously everyone used to tell me, "Oh, you're a beautiful woman, you're a beautiful athletic woman, you know, you're not anything else, or whatever, don't listen to them."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why do people keep asking me? I've been shouted at in women's toilets, you know, by the people who like sell you stuff in the toilet, like, "This is a female toilet, get out!" And I'm like,
really?
And situations like that is just the most embarrassing, shameful, heartbreaking situation.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I just think this needs to stop.
So how does it stop? Because what we're saying here is that you've obviously spent the largest part of your life as a girl, as a female. You identify as a man now, but would you say that because you said, I don't want to quote you wrongly, I might paraphrase.
I know this is really confusing. So if I'm like just going off on one,
I'm trying to make
slow
sure.
me down.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. So, would you class your sex as male or female now? Female. I think that's. But you.
My biological sex is female.
But you are, in all intents and purposes, a man.
Yeah.
I
identify as male. My gender identity is male. I am male. But I can't pretend that biologically I was assigned male at birth, and that's all it is. I was assigned female at birth.
Yeah. And so how do we sort out, do you think, because there might not be a way to sort it out, stopping problems like you going to the toilets now and feeling uncomfortable? Should there be a third toilet, or should there be because at the end of the day, there's arseholes.
Oh God, yeah.
There's arseholes,
yeah.
and I'm sorry, but whether you're, so you could argue, playing devil's advocate, a woman in the toilet, if they saw you walking in, it's obvious that you look more masculine than a lot of blokes that I
wouldn't go in a female toilet now.
You wouldn't go in a female toilet
no.
now. I thought that's what you meant. Sorry.
Oh no. So this is when I was like.
Right, that's mental.
Oh God, no, I wouldn't go in a female. I would not go in a female toilet now. I would expect a slap.
Yeah.
But no, this was like when you knew me.
Wow.
When I was 100%.
When you were Jessica.
Yeah.
You went into a female toilet and you got shouted at. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And whether that's just because, and it's stupid things. Whether it's because I'm tall, whether it's because I've always been quite athletic, whether it's because I had my hair in a bun, whether it was because I didn't wear loads of, wearing a dress. And it's shocking. It's disgusting.
It is shocking. But I don't think that we can change that.
No.
Because I think the problem is, to change that, we have to change the fact there's arseholes in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that it's never going to happen.
Mm.
So the better option, I would believe, is how do you become resilient enough to deal with that inevitable shitstorm that hits you?
Yeah.
For you, it was to do with how people viewed your sexuality or identity. For other people, it could be height, it could be birth defects, it could be race. It could, whatever it might be. How have you essentially become so strong?
I mean, I've always believed that you have to do what scares you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do what terrifies you. Otherwise, because in my eyes, true happiness is on the other side of fear. And if you don't do what absolutely terrifies you, and you're not willing to risk it going horrendously wrong, well then, if you're not willing to risk it going really bad, you're not taking the risk for it to be fucking amazing.
I completely agree.
And that's for me. That is what
How did you start that?
Is.
Because I've found in my own experience that people might acknowledge that, but when they're in the depth of despair, like as you said, you went, because I've been in similar positions for other reasons, like after finishing rugby because of a neck injury, I had no purpose, no identity. I lost all that. So both of us probably in positions where we wanted to kill ourselves. What for me, exactly what you said. It was a bit of exercise, doing a difficult thing, a little bit of self-recognition of success, of exercise, noticing that made me feel a bit better. When you were at your worst, what was like your first baby steps to start doing those things that scared you?
So obviously when I made the decision to come out, it was a massive thing, obviously for me, for my family and whatever else. And
to come out
as trans, sorry. Yeah,
right,
so come out as gay once, come out as trans. I hope to God I don't come out as, gay and fancying men in another 10 years, because my mum and dad's end will fall clean off. I can't do it again. I can't come out for a third time, I can't do it.
but again, I don't want to be too much tangent, but I've always viewed sexuality is something that we put in boxes too much.
I know. If it feels good, go and have a good time.
100%. 100%. I don't understand why it concerns so many people.
Yeah, and I hope to God one day you won't have to come out, but
it did. But so there was two separate occasions. Those were two different things. So what age did you come
10
out?
years. I came out as a gay woman when I joined the RAF when I was 20.
Yeah.
And then obviously I came out as a trans man when I was 28 last year.
Wow. So there was a big. That's a mad process to go through that as well.
Yeah.
So what were the baby steps on both? Because that must have been difficult coming out as gay.
Yeah.
So what? So did you go through kind of the suicidal tendencies and thoughts at that point, or did you not that bad?
My mental health wasn't great. I think even when I knew you and I was training with you, my mental health wasn't great.
No.
The only thing that sort of kept me going was fitness, and that was something that that I was always so in love with.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to build a strong body. That's what I fell in love with. And obviously I was trained to go in the IF at the time, and it was all things that I did to fill a void. And at the time, that was to do with me figuring out I was attracted to women, and didn't even know that at the time. But when I joined the RAF and I was suddenly around, you know, because a lot of gay women join the military.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. And when I did join the RAF and I was surrounded by so many other women who were like me, you know, they were tomboys or they were sporty, or they, you know, you're in a very masculine role in the military.
Course, yeah.
And I was around so many other girls who were, you know, already out as gay, and I joined the rugby team, and I was surrounded by all these, and I thought, oh my God, this is who I am. I'm around people who are like me. You know, I'm not in Wigan surrounded by, at the time,
so 99%
felt quite
of girls in it to actually find yourself.
And so obviously as I was around that more and more, I thought I needed to speak to my mum and dad and whatever, and 10 years ago coming out as gay was massive, and I don't think it is as massive now at all. You know, I really don't. But 10 years ago, when I was about to come out as gay, I was absolutely terrified. I was literally, I gathered them all around. I was like squeezing my sister's hand. She took a picture, and I was crying my eyes out, and I like had it tattooed on me.
And she being your support network, your sister.
Yeah, such a significant moment in my life when I gathered the family around the table, like come out as gay, and I think about that now, and I think, I could just walk down the street and say now, oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's what goes back to what you said before about doing those baby steps at the time.
Yeah.
That was probably the most scary thing you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, like
but
absolutely
by doing that,
yourself.
You've become so much stronger.
Yeah.
To the point where you look back on that, which was your horizon of fear.
Oh my God, yeah.
And now it's like, it's nothing.
Yeah, and you know, coming out as gay now, there's so many more. Even, I mean, at the time in a place like Wigan, when I just joined the RAF and I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't know a single gay woman in Wigan. There's probably more in Wigan now than there is straight women.
I think you're so right. I was winding my son up the other day, saying, you know, what girl he was going to a school disco, and I was like, right, what girl are you going to kiss? which one do you fancy? And he was like, and he turned around and completely, he went, I don't even know if I'm gay or not yet.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
And I just thought, wow.
Yeah.
Times have full, and I completely went.
And how old is he?
And he's 9.
That's like
8 or 9.
Amazing.
And I'm going, how brilliant society's changed.
Yeah.
Because the fact that he can absolutely go, well, I'm not basically hit puberty yet. I don't know if I'm who I fancy yet. But the recognition to go, it would be, I have no idea.
That makes me so happy though.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's fantastic. And I think, and it was good because it took me back, and I went, you're projecting, and I'm projecting there. I'm not doing right as a parent, because which girl you can, who are you going to kiss?
Yeah.
I should, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it made me question things. And I think as this next generation grows up, I think it really will start to change the narrative. Yeah. My worry about it all is that I think if it goes too far, it can have the same consequences. So I think we've got to be really careful about how we manage that.
So say if I was competing in, if I was competing in male sport, so I take testosterone once a week, but then I get my bloods obviously checked. So what that does is it raises my testosterone levels to the same level as a 29-year-old man.
But wouldn't you say that all 29-year-old men have a varying different levels of testosterone?
Yeah, but sort of within that average where you're not, where you wouldn't be banned, sort of thing. Like because obviously I'm feeling at birth, so I don't have anywhere near as much testosterone as the average 29-year-old man. Whereas obviously now that's what I'm going through this for. So they would test that before allowing someone to compete, that you are in that average framework.
Well, yeah, only because in testing in sport, you're not tested for how much you've got of something. You're just tested for the enzymes that break down that product.
Yeah.
So if you inject testosterone, or you take testosterone, or a multitude of other drugs, peptides, whatever it might be, you don't necessarily test for the drug. You test for the enzymes that have broken down, so you can tell whether it's synthetic or whether it's natural. So obviously, if you were to test most rugby players, they would have a higher than average testosterone level than the average male, which is probably one of the reasons they became athletes. If you
Yeah,
tested a combat athlete or something like that, one of the reasons they're inclined to go and compete in those sorts of sports is because they have more tendency to go into that because they've got more testosterone, right?
Yeah.
So I think so if you were to get tested in that sport, even if you were in the average, you would still get banned because you've taken the testosterone synthetically. So how do we?
I don't think they can do that because there has to be. So, for example, as a trans man, there will have to be a different level or a more specific level of testing, because they wouldn't be able to test you because you take testosterone, because you're basically doing that because you're going through gender
But wouldn't
transition.
that be equal opportunity?
You know what I mean?
Because then, could you not argue on the same reference? If I was a man, born male, that had low testosterone compared to the average born man, would that not mean that I would be also allowed to take testosterone as a supplement to bring myself up back to what would you deem as
possibly
average?
medically, because they would be looking into, you know, sort of the averages, or what would make it reach the point where you're taking too much that's not allowed or whatever else. There's got to be a level of testing, because obviously you can't ban, you know, a trans man or woman or whatever for or someone who's, you know, a really good rugby player but lacking in testosterone has to take it for his own health. Because
that's how it stands at the moment. Because that's how drug testing's done. So, irrelevant of your circumstances, if you are tested and you get positive test for a drug, you are banned. It's very binary.
Yeah.
So you might have been, you know, quote unlucky to be born as a man, let's say, who's 5 foot tall, as we said, with a limited growth hormone, let's say, that means you don't reach that 6 foot plus height to be a basketballer. But should you therefore mean that you are allowed to take the growth hormone to become what's average, or do you accept? Well, no, you're you, and that you know, if we're gonna fight for the right to actually go, no, just because you're not as tall as an NBA basketball player doesn't mean that we've now got to try and find a way of you being something else.
Yeah, no, I think there's different reasons behind things, isn't there?
Totally.
There's medical reasoning behind things. So, you know, if you need to take testosterone for your own health, or for example, I need to take testosterone because I'm going through a transition.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not abusing that, and that you know there is some way of level that they measure, you know, that's the way you get past it. It's the same as they won't let.
I just think
let trans women compete unless their testosterone levels have been leveled enough so that they have.
I just think that when we're talking
and
about average and we're leveling, I just don't think that exists in reality.
Yeah.
Because I think that, you know, if you tested my testosterone now, whether I've had a good night's sleep, I might have had an argument with the kids, you know, doing a podcast when we're talking and we're on camera, I might be a bit stressed, my cortisol might be up, I might have done a workout, I might not have done, sunlight, how much I've eaten, what I've eaten, all of these different things will affect my hormone levels. And it's very difficult, therefore, to understand, unless you test the whole world globally, to what is an average, what is normal. And I don't think the average or normal exists. I don't think that's real. I think that we are all different, and I think that therefore, if you're going to create a competitive environment, there has to be quite binary structures in place that allow for a competitive nature. And unfortunately, the byproduct of that as a negative is that, you know, people miss out. People miss out for reasons that they're born with, whether that be height, disability, able-bodiedness, gender, but it's really shit. But I don't see a way logically, as much as I'm trying to be, I wish I could, I don't see a way logically of actually levelling the playing field. Unless you say, okay, well, everyone can do anything, everyone can compete against anyone, kids can compete against adults, anyone can do anything they want, and the best of that thing will be the best. Everyone can take any drug they want. It's a complete level playing field for everyone. I think unless you did, I think you've sort of you can't really have an in between.
I know, yeah, I know what you're saying, and maybe they've not had to deal with that yet, because I don't know of any trans men who have, you know, attempted to go into the Super League. You know, it's
No.
you know, if I decided now, right, I want to be a rugby player, and I put absolutely everything into that and whatever else, they would probably have no right to discriminate against that. So there would have to be something then put in place where, right, okay,
Yeah.
we know you have to take testosterone medically, so we have to draw a line of, like, you know,
This is how much.
how much
I
or something.
I think what we can agree on is I agree the idea in principle works as an ideal.
Yeah.
But I just, for me personally, don't see a way of actually making that happen.
Yeah, I understand I completely understand what you're saying, and it's a really difficult conversation to have.
It is, but I think it's important, because I think what I want to be, and obviously know you are, an advocate for people to be be who you want to be, especially relating to mental health. When you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable in yourself, or you just don't feel comfortable to any capacity, you need to be able to and be allowed to do what it takes to actually make yourself feel empowered and not be in that crap place.
Yeah.
And if we as a society can put things in place to enable that to happen, then that should be what happens. It's just isolating and boiling down of what that needs to be.
Yeah. And like we said before, it's only going to get worse. They're only going to have to.
Yeah.
They're only going to have to figure this out. They're going to have to put in that research and more research into it, because there's only going to be, you know, just by me and you doing this, there's only going to be more and more people. When we talk about the trans conversation, coming out and being themselves, and you know, I might have dreamed of being a male Super League player since I was 5 years old, and if I'm willing to do every bit of training you do and every bit of work that you put in, and I'm willing to get to that level, and and you know, I'm not taking performance enhancing drugs, I'm just going through that puberty, but I've gone through that, you know, I've gone through them first 2 years of blah blah blah. If I'm at that level and you can't knock me otherwise, then so there's got to, and I'm willing to put myself in that position, you know, then you know.
I think it's just a really, I agree, I think it's
hard.
really hard. I think it's a really hard one. So
and it is really hard the other way around, male to female, because you know, testosterone, the effects of testosterone are irreversible. So if I stop taking testosterone now, then yeah, you know, estrogen would just take over, and I would, you know, I'd start getting periods again, or I'd become really more emotional, or you know. But the effects that testosterone have already had, like growing hair in different places, or you know, the change in my voice, or my jaw getting slightly square, or you know, the change in my muscle mass, or the fat redistributing around my body, all of those things are irreversible, and that's why it's a lot harder for males to transition to females, because they've already gone through that male puberty, and so it's irreversible. And that's why it is so important that if children are feeling like that, to allow them to go on hormone blockers and delay that, because
that's lovely something. So what age do you think that's appropriate? What, in your opinion?
I don't believe that until someone is at least 16 and know themselves, 16 to 18, whatever, to allow them to actually replace hormone replacement therapy. I don't believe you should do that until someone's, you know, old enough to know their own mind. But children know how they feel, and if they're the most honest out of any of us. And if the child is struggling with that, to put in place a hormone blocker and prevent them from starting that puberty, I don't believe it's causing anybody any harm, because it allows them to not have to go through, you know, the traumatic events of starting your period and growing boobs and all these things that you then have to reverse, and that will might cause you a lot. It's just putting yourself on pause until you go right.
Yeah, I suppose devil's advocate to that is that, as you've said, you came out as gay, you know, at what age? At 20, and it was then 27 that you came out as trans. And I definitely, if I look back to when I was 16 to 18 to 25, the transitions in my beliefs, my systems, and how I feel, and it's completely changed. It's completely altered. I look at that, back at that person, and I can't even recognise myself.
I know.
And I haven't gone through a transition. but I really do. But look at myself and I hear stories when I reminisce with old friends and think, I can't understand that was me. I know that happened, but it wasn't me. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that if you do something like take hormone blockers or change, you start medically changing around with your body over those years of your life, could that not cause significant consequences in the future where you turn around and go, actually that's not what I was the right thing to do at my age. I'm really frustrated that I did do that, which I think is fine if it's a fashion stance. You know, we can shave our heads, and I would love to grow some hair back, but what I'm saying is it's almost like a tattoo. If you get a tattoo at 16,
you hate it by the time.
Yeah, but even, totally. So it's like, how do we protect people? How do we protect people from themselves?
I know, and you know what? It's you'll never be able to do that because people my age have gone through transition, and by the time they're 50, want to detransition.
Yeah.
And you're never going to stop people, changing or feeling differently or whatever else. And a lot of people, I think in a lot of cases, that's people getting swept up in something and not really taking the time to do that internal work and know whether it's really, really like right for you.
Yeah.
But you're never going to stop people making mistakes in anything. And I think if it is, again, it's a difficult conversation. I don't think that the opportunity should be taken away to allow children to be on hormone blockers, because I didn't, but certain children know 100% from being a child that's who they are, and some people do, and
so what length does that, because if that sense of absolute feeling of knowing something in yourself, we obviously we struggle as humans scientifically to quantify that element of consciousness of real being, even though it's completely real to us. To actually quantify it as a reality generally that should be accepted by other people as well is really difficult, because if you then again go into the nth degree, if I really believe that I'm disabled, and I only say this because it's something that as a personal trainer I've dealt with over my life, people tend to on a smaller level think I've got a problem with my knee, and what happens is they attach themselves to this knee injury, and they might have a little wobble with the knee, and they think I've got this bad knee, and suddenly they start to come to gym classes. But I can't do that because of my knee. It's like, no problem, go and a bit of physio. It's bad. They don't really know what it is, but there's something wrong with it. And you start to be careful of that as a coach, and you go, right, well, you don't do those exercises, John, or whatever. And that carries on for 3 or 4 years. And what happens is this knee sleeve that they put on, and this ritual and this identification behind me having the bad knee becomes an absolute reality. There's no hiding from the fact that this knee is a problem. But in a medical sense, there is no problem with the knee. There's no issue. But that doesn't mean that they have got this issue. Now, if that carries on, could that person, that John with the bad knee, that some would argue you're leaning as the knee as a bit of a crutch, as an insecurity, they might feel like taking that knee sleeve off, or actually say my knee's fine now, is opening themselves up to being a different person, or
people assign things and make it their identity, don't they?
Totally. I did that with rugby when I lost when I lost playing rugby. I felt like, who am I? I'm not Jamie the rugby player anymore. That means I'm not anyone. I'm mourning a death of myself, and I think that's what I would worry about with understanding when people have an identity of themselves that might change or has the capacity to change. So maybe potentially through counselling, people might do that. They're like using the knee analogy. I know through rugby it helped me find, well, I'm not actually a Jamie rugby player. Playing rugby was a small part of my life. I'm someone
You're
different.
Still a human. You're
I'm
still valid,
human.
And
and John with the knee injury, you are still John. You're not disabled, John. You're John. You're not allowed to compete in the Paralympics with your bad leg because you're not disabled. Right, medically. I know you think you've got a bad knee, and I will support that knee. I won't give you box step ups and heavy squats because of it,
Yeah.
and we'll work through it. But you're still not allowed to compete in
the box set's being vulnerable.
Yeah, I know the box, 100%. The box set's being vulnerable, 100%. Good analogy.
Because it's an identity.
It's an identity,
like
right?
what you've just said. Then, I lost Jamie. I was mourning the death of myself. It's 100%. I think the biggest problem in society and what people need to work on and put the effort into educating themselves about is that I am not what I do. I'm a person, I'm valid, I'm worth it, I'm all these things, I'm you're Jamie, and everything that you do in your life, that's part of your experience, I'm Jax, I might be a trans man, but that's not all I am, that's part of my experience. I was also a lesbian woman 10 years ago, I've seen it through all the eyes, it's
I was
fine.
an absolute arsehole.
but you attach yourself to something, and it's like leaving the military, and I talk to the lads all the time on the unit that I work on. Being in prison and being in the military is very, very similar because you become so institutionalised to that routine, and that you get up here, you wear this, you eat then, this is what you do, this is what you do every day, this is when you go to sleep, this is blah blah, and you come out of that, and I came back off tour or when I left the RAF, and I didn't leave my mum's side for about 2 months. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't know. She asked me what I wanted to eat. I don't know. I'll make you some boiled eggs with runny, and she gives, and they're in front of me and they're not runny. I flip the fucking table. I'm like, I don't know what I want to eat. Just put it in front of me. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. I can't get dressed. Where's my uniform?
I totally resonate with you.
And it's the same being a rugby player or being in prison, or
I think being
kids when they leave school at 16, they've had structure for 10 years of their life. No wonder they go off the rails if they don't go do anything else, because they don't know how to put structure in the day.
So could there therefore, going full circle back to like the young kid with might be struggling with an identity crisis at that point, and they might relate that to sort of gender. And this obviously isn't everyone. This is just some cases. But if their reaction to that is to take hormone blockers at a young age, rather than potentially go through down the route of counselling or the way me and you have gone through, of understanding, hang on, I might consider myself a different gender and I want to express myself in a different way, that's absolutely fine. But first I need to absolutely know that I am okay being myself, irrelevant of my gender, irrelevant of my knee injury, irrelevant of whether my career as a player, irrelevant of being the RAF or whatever. I am me, and I need to accept myself. And I worry that if you were to turn to a medical form of dealing with that problem too early without getting the second element right, you could start to hang on to that. So you could start to go, well, the reason why I'm now happy is because I identify as a man or as a woman. And if you then were to get to 25 or 30 whatever and go, hang on, I might not be like this, but now I'm so scared of losing that because that's been my crutch. Is that going to just perpetuate a problem? And I think that's my concern, doing it too young, going through that process.
I don't believe in transitioning too young.
Okay.
I believe in giving people the opportunity to figure it out. So as a child, if you're giving them, a few years or whatever to just sort of, because kids can start puberty really early, and I think giving people that time, even as a young child, giving people that, whether it's a few years or whatever, that time to just live, and just be, and and just whatever, then I think that's something that we shouldn't take away from people. But actually transitioning, or not starting puberty at all, and because like you said, at 16 you still don't know. But I think giving people that little bit of a few years or whatever as a young person, if they're feeling that way, I don't think there's harm in giving people a bit of time, because you can't stop your body doing what it's going to do.
No. Although the consequences of blocking that progression biologically will obviously have an influence on a load of other things. It's not like you can just block that and that'll change everything. It's again,
and they certainly wouldn't be left alone. You wouldn't put someone on hormone blockers and then just forget about them. If they're going through something like that sort of gender reassignment question, they're gonna be they're going to see a psychiatrist. You know, that's
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there needs to be a compulsory element to.
Oh God, you can't just transition.
No,
you know,
no.
You can't. So
back in the day, I sound like bloody hell. 10 years ago, I remember even like when I was at school, if you come out as gay,
yeah,
it was still very weird.
Yeah.
For my 9-year-old son to turn around and go, don't know. That's like wicked, mate. But it's not even awkwardness about it. It's just that's how it is,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. And I think the same should happen for transgender.
Yeah, it's getting there.
And for gender identity. Where, as we keep saying, whereas I draw the line is you still can't do it in a competitive sense. That's my own. That's my only one. That's the one that's difficult, because if you allow women to compete, if you allow men that have been born as men, that are women, to compete against women since after going through puberty, it's an unfair advantage on at the elite level, and the other way around. If you're going to have men that have been born as women taking testosterone or performance enhancing drugs to bring themselves closer to masculine traits, that's going to that means that they're doping, which is violating doping allegations. So I think that one is where I draw the line. You can't do it in a competitive sense, but I think that needs to be researched and debated to try and find potential answer for that. But this idea of, when you mention the word trans, people thinking exactly as what you said, of this bloke,
freak,
totally,
you know, and
bloke in a film dressed as a woman, or or an ugly attempt at being a woman, or vice whatever. That's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. And I think that needs to change. And I think that's why I think what you're doing is so important. It's showcasing that being brave and being strong is nothing to do with typical masculine sort of having a fight, drinking beer down the pub, being not showing emotions, not crying. It's totally the opposite. Being vulnerable.
Oh God, yeah. Being vulnerable is like my biggest. Have you ever watched Brene Brown?
No.
So, if you watch it on Netflix, or she's got a lot of books. Brene Brown, The Call to Courage, it's called.
Okay.
And she's like a researcher, storyteller, a lot of things, but she wrote quite a few books, and she studies shame. But she did a TED talk on vulnerability, and it sort of went crazy. But she talks about you cannot have courage without walking through vulnerability.
Wow.
You can't do it. It's impossible. You can't have courage without. You can't really have anything without vulnerability, because vulnerability might be the birthplace of fear and scarcity and uncomfortable feelings and everything else. But it's also the birthplace of joy and belonging. And everything else, because really you have to risk both by doing that. And people are brought up to believe that being courageous is strong and being vulnerable is weak.
Yeah, they are.
And
that's true.
You cannot be courageous without being vulnerable, because the definition of vulnerability is going and doing something anyway, even though you don't know the outcome. And you can't go into, war and be a courageous motherfucker and you don't know the outcome.
No.
You're going into war. You're vulnerable.
So
you're vulnerable
you
as
have
hell.
to admit that there is the potential here for me to die, me to be injured. I am vulnerable.
Being vulnerable is the situations in life that you have no idea take the most strength. Being vulnerable is being sat with your wife with stage 4 breast cancer and discussing your kids growing up and the plan for them.
Because the opposite is, if you don't admit that vulnerability or even acknowledge it through ignorance, then you're not actually being courageous.
No.
Because you're just being thick.
You're just hiding.
You're just hiding. You might, like, war's a good analogy. If you genuinely believe there is no fear of you dying or getting injured or anything going wrong, you're not being courageous going to war.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to overcome that sense of fear, which only happens as a consequence of admitting some form of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing. Yeah, that's really profound.
Being vulnerable is putting yourself out there when you literally have no idea what the outcome's going to be, and you know, picking someone. Your best friend loses his mum. You being vulnerable is picking up the phone.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to pick up the phone.
No.
You don't know what to say.
No.
You can't fix it.
No. Well,
you'll avoid it at all costs.
I think this is so true. We talk about mental.
You just need to show up.
That's bang on.
And that's all people want you to do. Just show up, because you avoid that phone call, and go and do something else because you don't know what to say. But all you really need to do is pick up the phone and go, I can't fix this, but I'll walk through the pain with you.
Yeah. Well, when I talk about mental health, and obviously gone through my own struggles, I've come to the conclusion that the real difference between people making it through feeling suicidal, genuinely or not, is their support network.
Yeah.
Like if you've got the right people around you,
100%, yeah.
You can get through it. If you're unlucky enough to not have the right people around you, and you're in that place, it's very unlikely you'll get through it.
Yeah.
And I think that the reality of the situation is those people are proactive. When you are feeling crap, they show up. They are there. You know,
and it's hard to show
up. Oh,
it's so hard to show up.
It drains. I've spoken to so many people, and I've spoken to my own support network. I'm sure you're the same. You know, is it your sister that's probably been the biggest rock? Like, I bet if you spoke to her now, the drain that you've probably put on her, like the drain I've put on my circle.
Yeah.
When I've been at my worst.
Yeah.
It's like they can't leave you alone.
Yeah.
They can't.
My mum now, like you can see it in her face.
You can't have a minute.
Yeah.
And it's like that you can. It's a heavy burden, which is why I get really frustrated and pissed off when people turn around and have those throwaway comments. If you ever need me, I'm there. Let me know. I'll go for that coffee.
Yeah, but you'll never ring them.
You're not there, which is fine. But don't say it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I always use an analogy. Oh, because I've got children. If I turn around to someone and say, whatever you need, I'm there, mate. I'll be there for you, right? If I'm on the way to take Harry to his rugby match, and someone rang me, and they said, mate, I'm in a bad place, can you come over? Would I go, Harry, we're not going to rugby, I need to go and see my friend, he's in trouble? Or would I go to that person, I'll be with you as soon as I can, I'm just going to my son's rugby, but I'll be there, I'll drop him off after and I'll be with you in a few hours, or whatever. If the answer is the latter, I wouldn't be there if anything. You're not my priority, which is fine, but I'll admit that to you. And what I'll say is, I can't help you right now, but I'll ring this person, or I'll ring your mum, or we need to have someone, I'll help you get someone in place that can be your support network if they're available. But to communicate that quite effectively. But to have the throwaway comment of always be there, but then turn around at that moment and go, no, I can't be. That's letting that person down.
Yeah.
So I hate the idea of people turning around and go, if you ever need a chat, I'm here.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to make sure that if you are going to say something like that to someone, that is a massive statement.
Yeah, and it's not even about saying it. You don't need to say it.
No,
you just need to be there, because that person in crisis is not going to ring you up and say, I'm in crisis. You know, you're not.
And we've probably got about less than a handful of people.
Yeah.
The reality, and if they rang us up and said, we would literally drop everything.
Yeah.
And I think we've all got a few people that we do it for.
Yeah.
But it's a very small number.
Yeah, because it's hard. Like, you can't, to be there for someone who's going through something is hard work. Like, especially if you don't want them to do anything. You just want them to. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want you to do it. I just want you to sit there. I just want you to be there. To be that person.
Yeah.
Sat there is the hardest thing in the world. Like,
what do you do every day to stay resilient and endure the hate that you get? I'm assuming a lot of. And backlash. What advice would you give to someone that is struggling right now with their mental health and to become more resilient?
I think when it comes to mental health, it's massively about you. So for me, I need to be mentally stimulated, or like physically stimulated. So for me, I don't do very well if I'm off work, or I'm very used to to getting up and putting a uniform on and feeling that sense of worth. But the thing that's done my mental health, you know, it's just completely transformed it, is being authentic and being myself and thinking, you know what, I'm just going to take everybody on the journey with me and we'll just see what happens. Because I need to be happy to have these conversations. I need to be happy to have these uncomfortable conversations. I need to let people make mistakes. I need to make mistakes myself. I need to just own my truth, and I'll tell you all the shit and I'll tell you all the good, and I'll tell you that if you don't do the hard work in yourself, you're not getting anywhere. You're just going to keep going around in circles and trying to fill a void and hiding behind yourself and hiding behind someone else and hiding behind whatever you want to hide behind, whether it's buying a house or joining the military or playing rugby or whatever else. If you're not going to be yourself, then your relationships are never going to be 100%. Your effort in your career is never going to be 100%. You're just going to be walking around every day pretending to be happy.
Yeah. It's like a time bomb.
And convincing yourself that you're happy, and sooner or later you'll have a midlife crisis, whether that's at 20 or 60. It will happen, because
so true.
It's just going to like simmer on the and unless you get past that surface level shit and have those conversations.
So when people really stop to think about who they want to be and be authentic to themselves, to just own that truth. Yeah,
be so unapologetically you that it gives other people the confidence to be themselves as well.
And when you do inevitably get the shit, get the hate, when you do be authentic, and you being authentic, because we've all got our quirks and our weirdness, me more than anyone. When you do that and you get the backlash, what's the best way to deal with it?
So for me, like online hate, if I hadn't have gone, obviously I went into a prison environment as a trans man, having already done 4 years as a female officer.
Nice,
and was the most terrifying thing I have ever done in my life. Like, I would rather be on a plane to Iraq than going walking into a prison and be I missed a feeling now. And in that kind of environment, as you can imagine, but going through that and being open and ready for that, and just letting that happen and being so honest with people who've been in prison 15, 20 years, and they're turning around to me and saying, I'm right behind you, you're going to make me a better man when I get out to my niece and nephews.
Brilliant.
You know, or
Brilliant.
You've just proven that you're human too, and you've just proven that if you can be vulnerable and you can be suicidal and you can go through all the hardship that you've been through but still have a career and still be so positive and still work hard and achieve something and make something of your life, then, you know, it's inspired people who have been stuck in the system for 20 years and give them the courage to transform their own lives.
I obviously asked you how
with the hate and stuff.
Yeah, how do you deal with the hate? And like the first part of your question I took from it was basically, when you get hate, the easiest way to get better at dealing with it is to go and do more difficult things. So your reaction was to go and work in another environment, go and become a prison officer.
Yeah.
Because
I thought I had to lose my career. I loved being a prison officer. You know, I was a prison officer for 4 years as Jess, and I loved that career. And I thought I had to stay by to it because I had to choose transitioning. I had to save my own life. You know, I spent 28 years looking for something and I found it in myself. Like I needed to do that.
That's great. We just said there, you spent 28 looking for something that you were realising in yourself.
Yeah.
I think people forget that.
It is.
All the strength that you need in your life, you've already got it.
Yeah.
You've just got to unlock it.
Yeah.
You've just got to find
it.
it.
The negativity, you know, and this is something else that Brené Brown talks about, and it's about daring greatly, and just talks about life being an arena, and if you're putting yourself out there and you're in the arena and you're covered in blood, sweat and tears, and all these people in the audience who aren't putting themselves out there will take great pleasure in chucking all the shit behind the keyboard and whatever else, and you just have to let it fall and walk over it and carry on, because unless you're putting yourself out there and doing what scares you and being vulnerable, I am absolutely not interested in what you've got to say.
I think that's so true. I think the idea that we have all got this immense, infinite amount of strength within us, and the only and over our lifetime, the way we access it through like keys is by going through sort of doorways that are made up of fear and pain. And the more doors we open, the more we go through our own fear and run in that direction, the more we have access to strength.
Yeah.
And it's like but unfortunately, every time you go through a door, the next door's even harder to open, and the next door's even harder to open.
But hard things, easy life.
Totally.
Easy things, hard life. Like
totally. Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, people saying to me on TikTok, you should have given up, you should have killed yourself, you should have done this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, if I hadn't have done the last year of personal work, I would listen to those people, and that's what's scary. People will listen to those people. I think, and I say this to the lads at work, in the prison all the time. It's not about pretending that you don't care what anybody thinks.
No,
we all care. We all
yeah.
care what people think. We all care what people think. The thing to remember is, you need to care about the people who matter, the people who've got your best interests at heart. If some stranger tells me that I've messed up, I don't care. But if my mum tells me it, or a good friend of mine or whatever, then I'm listening.
Of course you are, and you've got to be so selective with those people, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got to be really.
The people who love you the most and who will tell you the truth are the people who you need to listen to. Any other critic can fuck off.
Yeah.
Because you're unhappy with what I'm doing, not me.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I've got people around me, just interacting with positive people, like you, like-minded people.
Yeah.
That's all that matters to me.
I think you bang on with that. You are. I believe you're a product of the people you spend time with, and so I suppose one of the other things you're saying there is one of the best ways to look after your mental health is to surround yourself with people that you've chosen to be around.
Yeah.
You value their opinion, and you sort of disregard anyone outside that circle's opinion. It's still going to upset you. You can't help being upset. You are emotional. We're humans, aren't we? But you just allow that to kind of go through. You move on, and you keep having to reaffirm the fact, I don't care about that person. Ask the support network, the people who are closest to you, what do you think? Are they right or they're wrong? Because I think it's important. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I don't think I think it's important to not have those network of people necessarily as like yes men, people that always agree with you. I think having people that are like-minded is different from having people that are always agreeable. Yeah. Because I find it really important to be able to have genuine conversations and ask things about someone. And
you need to be held accountable. You need to be challenged. I think we all spend our lives trying to please everybody else. That we say yes to what we say, not what we want to say no to, and we say no to what we want to say yes to.
Yeah.
Because we're just so obsessed with pleasing other people and thinking, well, will that look all right? Will that look all right? Well, can I do that? Can I not? When actually, I really want to say yes to that, but I'm saying no. And I really want to say no to that, but I'm saying yeah, because I'm trying to please you.
Is there a way, do you think, of verbalising that? Do you know when you have that thought process in your mind of going, I really want to say yes to that, but I feel really ashamed to do it? Of actually verbalising that out loud in that situation to try and... Because I always find that put people on edge, because I always find the argument where people go, how are you today? Hi mate, you alright? And you go, nah, I'm really bad. I'm struggling, I didn't want to get out of bed this morning. And they go, oh, I didn't mean like, you alright? I meant alright. And it's like, don't ask me then. Don't ask me. I don't want it. If you don't bother, don't ask me the question. But because I find that there is a hard balance between being honest and real, as you've said, which is so important, I believe, as well, but also just getting on in society. And in a lot of ways, it makes me want to withdraw from society because I find it so painful now. When you try and live a really true life, when you are associated and spending time with people that aren't that way, and you're trying to just pander to them, it makes you really frustrated.
And it's hard to say, but negative, toxic people are like the biggest killers of self-confidence and self-esteem. And for me now, like, I've spent so long just trying to please people, and even transitioning, I knew it was going to kill my family, and it was going to be hard for me, but it was going to be hell for them. But at the same time, I had to sit down and say, it's either a living son or a dead daughter, and we go through this or we don't. And being vulnerable is terrifying and scary and full of fear, but there's nothing more terrifying than living a life and wishing I'd shown up.
Wow. Brilliant, that. Isn't
Oh, don't do
it?
that.
So the two things I've taken this conversation, apart from just being really inspired today,
Oh.
is do things that really terrify you.
Yeah, 100%.
Do things that really scare you. That's one of the best ways to look after your mental health and become resilient for the inevitable crap that comes your way in life.
Yeah, because you're going to fail. You are going to
You
fail.
are going to fail, and like you said, you did the biggest thing that you thought would make you happy, transitioning, becoming a man, and suddenly you had your biggest breakdown. It's like, so even,
Yeah.
so even when you get the things that you think will make you happy,
Yeah.
even then you might have your biggest breakdowns.
Yeah.
So you've got to constantly work to do difficult things that scare you,
Yeah.
to make yourself resilient and better able to deal with the shitstorm that comes.
Because my biggest breakdown led to the biggest breakthrough, and now I'm happier than I've ever been.
So and now you're doing things like, you know, continuing working in the prison service, constantly doing things that scare you, to try and actually become more and more resilient and better, putting yourself out there in TikTok, on social media, talking about your story, in dealing with people that are hating you, you know, giving you those trolls, to actually go to grow and develop through fear and resilience as well. So all the time you're practicing what you preach, which
I feel like being visible is. I feel like it's my duty to be visible, because when you're a kid or when you're young, whatever, and when you're watching, you know, TV, the 99% of people, well, it's probably changed now, but if you look back, not a lot of people know someone who's transitioned, so they don't know anything, they don't have that education, they don't, so their only knowledge they're getting is from the media.
Yeah.
And it's so important to be visible in the media as much as we can, because that reassures people that their life is worth living. You need to be able to see a representation of you, you know, whether you as a young lad and you're looking at a rugby player and thinking, that's who I want to be, you know, that's not there for trans youth, and you need to be able to have someone say, your life's worth living, don't give up.
And I think, to go one step further, like, I think young men are having quite a crisis at the moment, not being true to themselves, and worrying about what people think, and you know, young men are having a really tough time for all those reasons. And for young men who are watching this, for example, that can see a man that is fighting for what he believes, being true to himself, constantly doing difficult things, talking about his deepest insecurities, which is your second thing that you talked about, which is your access to being courageous and strong, which is being vulnerable and admitting those vulnerabilities. You, in my opinion, are the perfect role model for young men to aspire to be.
That's a really nice thing to say.
Aspire for the man that they want to be, in terms of behaviour, in terms of the way they, what young men should aspire to do, that would, I believe, make them happy. I think we both agree. Being okay, being vulnerable, being true to themselves, surrounding themselves with good people they want to be.
It's the strongest thing you
they
can
want
ever
to be
do.
like, doing difficult things. All these things. If young men were to do those things that you're saying are the best things to look after your mental health, I believe that would also make them massively happy.
Yeah.
And what an amazing thing that they can look at someone who's gone through a transition as what I would argue is one of the best representations of a man that they could aspire to be.
Stop being so nice.
No, I'm being serious. You know me. I try and say it as it is. And
being able to just talk is one of the strongest things that you can do, and people are too worried about looking okay and being okay and being tough and whatever else. And there's one thing to push through and get on with life, but there's another thing just pretending to be happy every day, because everything,
it's not
if you're
real.
Authentic, everything will change, because you can, as much as you might think you're doing well, you might be successful, you know, whatever, if you're not 100% authentic, that everything in your life is then not 100% authentic. Your relationship isn't 100% authentic. Your friendships aren't, you know, your ability to reach your full potential in your career or in your sport or whatever, that is all being held back, because the moment you let go of that and you take control of your fears and make them yours and own them,
Yeah.
You can conquer absolutely anything
Totally.
and just go for it.
You become so empowered by that.
Yeah, and you will fail, but
You're allowed to be
you'll
sad,
get
you're
up
allowed
and
to
you'll do
cry.
it again.
Yeah, you're allowed to be upset about during the process. It's all part of
Yeah.
the process, isn't it?
Like cry, talk,
Yeah,
have a chin wag, like just...
Wicked. Oh, wicked. What a guy. Thank you so much, mate.
You
Legend.
too.
What a guy.
Right.
What a talk. Made my week, that.